Dan, a very different day.
Very difficult, very difficult. It'll spread the fields out much more in these races than the tailwinds did. The races won't be quite so close. Very much a day for the power men, very much a day for the people with the big legs, the big strong legs and the long drawback. It'll be difficult for the lighter crews in these heavyweight events.
Well, we start with a lightweight competition, the final of the women's double sculls. After Portugal and Canada, the Germans are in lane number 3, and they're certainly going to throw down a challenge, I think, to the United States. The US, who won a silver medal in this category last year. Lindsay Burns, who's at stroke, was part of that crew. She's got a new partner, more of her in a moment. In lane number 5, Tonya Williams and Claire Parker for Great Britain in the purple hats. And completing the lineup on the far side, the defending champions. The Danes, Elisabeth Fraas in the bow seat and Ulla Jensen at stroke, and watch for them to come late. The first final on the second day, and the headwind is pretty strong, as you can see there from the water conditions.
Ready? USA, ready? Great Britain, ready? Denmark, ready? Are you ready? Go!
First time of asking, and a pretty level start by all 6 crews.
Watch out for the Germans. Watch out for those. You can see how difficult the conditions are. They're all getting caught. Wind blowing straight down the course. I think the lanes are pretty even, but it's making it very difficult for the crews, particularly in the smaller boats. The Germans have got away, getting caught on the recovery quite a bit, especially at bow.
Right at the beginning there, the Americans have decided that they want to try and dominate this competition, and they've gone straight into a half-length lead, perhaps a little bit more than that, over the Danes, who are on the far side in lane 6, and the Germans. Well, here are the Danes, Ulla Jensen and Elisabeth Fraas. Good double, this.
They won last year. Very strong at the finish. You see that real push at the finish, which they have to do into this headwind. You row very differently into a headwind compared to rowing into a tailwind, and you can see how fast onto it the Americans are. Onto the catches, they're very sharp, very accurate, good aggressive sculling, and they've certainly got a good benefit from that early lead. They can settle and they can watch the field.
Closest to us in lane number 1 are the Portuguese, Maria Batista and Luciana Alcada. Good to see the Portuguese yet underlining the real spread of strength in the sport here, with a whole range of nations getting finalists for the first time in 1991.
Indeed, you can see that they're much less secure on the catch, much less aggressive on the catch. They're sculling technically well, but they lack the experience at this kind of competition. But it's very good for them to have made the final, and clearly they're going to improve. But they're at the moment bringing up the rear.
Indeed, the Americans in the lead, coming to the end of the first 500 metres, over 2 seconds up on the Germans.
Oh, the Americans they've caught a buoy. They're in terrible trouble. They've caught a buoy. The Germans have gone right past them. That was awful. That's put them back about 5 or 6 seconds, right the way back. They're now back to about 3rd place. What a disaster for them. They were looking so good.
And it's also allowed the Danish double to close up, and now a chance to look at the work of the British pair. Tonya Williams and Claire Parker, Dan.
British double, very good indeed. They've got very nice technique, but not enough power, not enough aggression in the water into this headwind. They've got to be much tougher in the water, and they don't have quite the strength to be able to whack it down the way that they need to there. But the Americans, what a disaster for them. But they're getting back, they've got back into this race. It must have taken a lot out of them to get back into this race, but it does show what a quality double they are, because they've taken the lead again. They've moved back in front, they were knocked right the way back, they've moved past the Germans again, and they're back in the lead. That is an extraordinary recovery, because it set them way back. They were all over the place when they caught that buoy. They better watch their steering though.
This is the Portuguese double, Maria Batista and Luciana Alcada. And I've got to emphasize, Dan, the time through 500 meters there for the Americans was 1:53.81, and they had a lead of over 2¼ seconds over the Americans. To have done this, and they must be a second or so up now, but are they going to pay for it at the end of the day?
They'll have to pay for it. They're going to be they're going to really struggle over the second half, particularly in this headwind. They might be able to get away with it in the tailwind, but they're going to have a struggle over the last 500 or 600 meters.
Well, there's a real split in the field now because there are 3 crews away from the rest. The Americans still in command, as you saw. Then the Germans, who are looking good. On the far side, the Danes, they've got the better of the Canadians at the moment. And here are the 2 Canadians. In the bow there, Vendi Vibi, well, she was part of the bronze medal double last year, but at stroke, Michelle Darville is the newcomer this time.
Dude, I'm amazed they can actually see out of those things, but it's it might well be quite useful for the glare off the water. Into the headwind, though, good hard finishes, which is vital.
Well, coming to 1,000 meters, and the incredible is still happening after that United States disaster. They lead. They're through in 3:55.76. Their lead just over 1.5 seconds.
Well, their legs are going to be hurting now. You can see actually they're not quite as lively as they were on the catches. They're the Germans. They're going to be the threat. They're going to take every advantage they can if the Americans falter.
Indeed, Claudia Waldi in the stern, and Christiane, who we can't really see at the moment, in the bow.
They're very well together. They're moving extremely well together in these difficult conditions. They've got good finishes, but the Americans have got a length. 7:50 to go. This is where it's going to hurt the American double. This is where it's going to hurt them. The amount of work they had to do to get back on top again. Maybe they went too fast too early once they recovered, and they're going to pay for it, but they're not sculling with the same vitality that they were earlier on in the race. They are now blades a little bit flying in the air, not quite so accurate, and the legs are a bit slower. But they're still there, they're holding on, and they're well together, and that's going to help them a lot.
Difficult water conditions, a very strong headwind at the beginning of this day, and the United States are still looking for their first gold medal of the championships. And if this double can pull it off, my goodness, they'll have deserved it, because they've done it despite themselves and against the odds at the moment, and they've still got the lead as we come to the end of the third 500.
Just watch how well the legs are going down together. They're very well together. They've still got 3/4 of a length there. They could well pull it off. They could well pull it off. They've got tremendous cohesion and great resilience.
5:57.68, and you can see they're 1.89, so the Germans didn't in fact make anything on that third 500. But now it's down to the business end of the race, and the Germans are beginning to pull back, and is this where it's all going to tell? The Americans perhaps just finding it tough now as Claudia Waldi tries to turn the screw.
Yes, their cohesion is not quite as good as it was either. These 2 doubles very tired in these headwind conditions. It's blowing very hard down this course, and they're having to row 3/4 of a minute longer than they would normally expect to do, and that's going to hurt them badly in the last 200 meters. But the Germans not having to speed up at all. The Americans are just coming back to them. Germans waiting to pick up on any weakening in the American crew. Americans still got the cohesion. They've done a lot of miles together, moving very well still. Stroke taking a look across, and a bit of a roll there in the boat.
The gold medal could still be theirs. They're really being pressurized by the Germans now, but can they respond to the challenge that's being thrown down to them? Way on the left of your screen there, that's the Danes, the defending champions. I think they're out of it, but they're battling at the moment with the Canadians, who are in lane 2, second from the right, for the bronze medal. Into the last 50-60 meters of this race now, and the Americans have still got the lead. The Germans, though, are coming. Claudia Waldi and Christian Weber, they've only had a bronze medal in the World Championships, and they're hunting for gold now. Stroke by stroke, they're overhauling the Americans, who've done everything. They've made the mistakes, they've pulled back, but they've given so much as a result that they can't resist this final thrust of the Germans, and they take the gold medal by just over half a length with the Americans in a battle here for the bronze medal. And Denmark have outdone the Canadians, who, as you can see, are slewed sideways and look to have hit a buoy just towards the end there. The Canadians going into 4th place, finishing 5th Great Britain, and Portugal will complete in 6th place. So a super performance there by the Germans, but Dan, it's a race of what might have been, but for that early error of the Americans.
What a disappointment for them. Big disappointment for them, but they'll be back again next year, I'm sure.
So Denny Oswald, president of FISA, presents the first medal of the day to the German double, giving Germany their 5th gold medal of the 1991 championships. Plenty to please the fans. But no luck.